After months of fights, fallouts and the odd loving moment with the kids, some children in the UK will be returning to school from today. But with scientists in disagreement on the safety of schools reopening, many have been left with an agonising decision over whether to send them back. Many say they're feeling this pressure from other parents. So what would you do?
I would absolutely send my kids back. In fact, I wouldn't have taken them out in the first place if that had been a choice I was given. But it's about personal choice. Yeah. If you don't want to, I absolutely don't think you should be forced to. I don't think any teacher that feels that they don't want to go back and teach shouldn't be forced to. But a lot of teachers do want to go back, and I, for one, would absolutely be there. I mean, my daughter's 16, so she's had her GCSEs cancelled. She's not one of the years going back because there's not really any need, because her GCSEs have been cancelled, so she's sort of at the tail end of that schooling year anyway. But if my child was taking GCSEs next year, there's going to be a huge gap in their education from this lockdown. And, you know, other critical years as well. I absolutely would, but it is personal choice.
I don't have children of school age, but obviously I love several children in my own family and my friends' children who are in this situation. My sister is the foster mum of 3 school-age children. She's choosing to wait till September. I personally would send my children back to school. I know this is causing a lot of consternation within families. I mean, Peter, Andre and Emily came out the other day. Peter didn't want to send them back. Emily did. She's won because she's the doctor, so he feels that hers is perhaps the louder, voice within the family. But I just find that what I've been going on generally within this virus is trying to find some hope and positivity from the data. So I don't go on social media and quote Sue from Wolverhampton, even though she may have a very valid point. Yeah. I'm very careful that what I do put out, but there seems to be a massive surge in negativity and people not wanting to move forward. And I just try to, I get criticised for it in some quarters, but as a mental health advocate, I feel that I have a responsibility to look after the people who follow me, and a lot of those are teachers, and a lot of those are mums who are in this predicament. They're not looking at me to make the decision, but I feel that it's about getting perspective. And so there are some statistics that I just very quickly want to put out perspective-wise for people worrying generally about this virus, because we only hear from the mainstream media the negative things. But Professor Chris Whitty said, even with no vaccine, a high proportion of people will not get coronavirus. At an individual level, the chances of dying of coronavirus are very low. Of people with symptoms, a great majority, 80%, will have mild to moderate case. A significant proportion of those will have no symptoms. And even in the most vulnerable age groups, the majority of those that contract the virus do not die. Now, that's just not me quoting off the top of my head. That's something that I'm sharing. 60% of care homes have not had any incidents of COVID. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that it doesn't matter. Horrific. This is a horrendous virus. We know that. And I'm not saying it's not. It's just trying to find hope where hope is there and to give a different perspective on the actual statistics, because we just hear the bad news all the time.
And I think, picking up on what Denise said, Judi, the media have done an incredible job in taking what the government information is and making sure that people feel informed. But also, I think with that information and reporting on people who may be breaking rules or results in certain care homes, that people feel incredibly nervous. And that's been enough in many cases to keep people inside and keep them adhering to lockdown rules. And I think for some, this feeling that, oh, OK, as of Monday, this to some might feel an arbitrary day, it's all safe to send your kids back to school. Is this how you feel, Judi? Do you feel apprehensive about the idea of sending your children back?
I feel apprehensive. I've got the school structure already, and for some of the age groups they won't be going back, and some for the older child is like 2 hours twice a week. But I am still very apprehensive about it, and I probably won't send them back to school straight away. I feel like the first couple of weeks will be a practice run, will almost be an experiment, and that's no disrespect to the teachers or the schools. I think they're under such immense, pressure. And I feel like as a mum, because I'm a bit nervous, my son has had a history before of respiratory illnesses. And I think that I would probably just be projecting so much of my own anxiety and nervousness onto the school. I think, you know, let it be settled for maybe a couple of weeks, and then I would adhere to the rules of bringing them in gradually. I don't want to add that pressure of, well, how does it work? Who is he with? You know, he's got a little cough, she's got a little... I don't want to add that pressure, and maybe I need to learn to contain my anxiety first before I
because we
send
have
them
all
back.
been...
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, what you're saying about if your son has a history with respiratory illnesses. I totally get it. But putting that to one side, if you're talking about children that don't have any underlying health issues, I mean, Dr. Hillary this morning was saying on GMB, I think it was, that they have now been looking at the rates of transmission with obviously the children of key workers who've been back at school or who never stopped going to school. And I think it's virtually sort of like low to non-existent.
And across Europe, where schools have gone back as well.
I think for me personally, you know, and I wouldn't be advising anybody this, I just go in with my household and how I feel. I think that we've been so bombarded with looking at death rates and all the rest of it that maybe I haven't taken in the information like what you've just said, Jane. So I think I would need that process. It just feels too immediate for me.
I completely understand, and I think we've been... we had to be... Sorry. We had to be frightened into staying home and into lockdown. We now have to be taught how to come out of
Yes.
this because of what's going to happen now with the tsunami of mental health illness and, with the mental health problem. And also the fact that 60,000 cancers should have been diagnosed over the last 2 months and haven't. So it's how we move forward as well, generally.
It is.